For more on this, we are now being joined by retired Colonel Rich Outson from Washington, D.C. He's a senior fellow at the Atlantic Council and the Jamestown Foundation. Rich, welcome back to WION. What do you make of this massive protest that's taking place in Israel, and what kind of pressure is on the Israeli government, not only from these protests, but it appears the Biden administration is also pressuring Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu?
It's good to be with you. Yes, I think the pressure is reflective in Israel, the domestic pressure of broad dissatisfaction with the course of the war. It's been going on almost 11 months now. The political strategy clearly is not working. And by that, I mean the idea of an extended low-intensity conflict. Most of Gaza is not occupied by the Israelis right now. They went in with force, but they haven't stayed, meaning that Hamas has been able to reassert control in portions of the Strip. And the idea that the continued conduct of military operations can save the hostages has been disappointed by the recent executions by Hamas of these 6. So what you see is both the left and the right of the political spectrum in Israel basically saying this is not working. The left saying make a deal, take half a loaf, as the saying goes, in order to save the hostages, and we'll revisit this when we need to, even if it means Hamas survives. On the right, they say you haven't gone hard enough, and we still have too many countries supporting Hamas. Take the gloves off. But nobody's happy with what's happened so far. And as you say, that's coupled with international pressure on Israel from the U.S. and elsewhere to bring this to a conclusion.
The Biden administration, it appears, plans to present what it terms as a take it or leave it Israel-Gaza ceasefire deal. Do we know what that's about, and how much of it has to do, once again, with preventing Israel from going into places like Rafah, where these executed hostages were found?
Well, I think describing a U.S. negotiating position as take it or leave it implies leverage that it's not, probably doesn't really have, and certainly isn't willing to exercise either over Israel or over Hamas. If the U.S. says, okay, they've left it, so I'm not going to negotiate anymore, I don't see that as realistic. On the other hand, if Israel says no and Hamas says yes, does that mean the U.S. starts sanctioning Israel? I don't think that's going to happen either. If Hamas says no and Israel says yes, does that mean we participate in the military campaign? So in a sense, I think it's just an ad campaign to say it's a take it or leave it. Negotiations will continue. At the crux of this is Israeli continued control over Philadelphia corridor. That's the strip of land between Gaza, Rafah, as you mentioned, and Egypt. Because if the Israelis pull out of that, Hamas will be able to resuscitate its military capabilities over time. If Israel stays there, that will be much more difficult. In other words, keeping Philadelphia corridor really is central to saying who won this round of warfare between Hamas and Israel. And that's one of the reasons that Netanyahu is so loath, even at the cost of lives of hostages, to make that concession.
Okay, well, Rich, thank you so much for all of that. Of course, we'll be following this story very closely. It was a very tragic weekend. We're going to see how the Biden administration and, of course, Israel and Hamas decide to proceed. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.